Imagine a dark night. The ocean is completely silent. Iranian warships are docked at the ports of Bandar Abbas and Chabahar. The crew is asleep. Guards are doing their routine patrol. There is no radar warning. There is no signal. There is no alarm. Just silence. But behind that silence, thousands of feet above the water, hell was on its way. And when it arrived, Iran's entire navy became nothing more than a chapter in history. This is the story of Operation Epic Fury, and today I am going to walk you through every single detail of what happened, how it happened, and where things are heading next. Welcome back. Today we are talking about a military operation that destroyed an entire naval force in under 72 hours. This was not a movie. This was not a simulation. This was real. This was precise. And this was one of the most dominant displays of American military power the modern world has ever witnessed. Stay with me until the end, because this story has layers that most people are not talking about. To understand why this operation happened, you first need to understand what Iran was doing and what threat it actually posed. For years, Iran had been using the Straits of Hormuz as a weapon. This narrow stretch of water is the passage through which roughly 20% of the world's oil supply travels every single day. Iran knew this, and Iran used this knowledge to hold the entire global energy market hostage. Whenever tensions rose, Iran would threaten to close the straits, and oil prices would immediately jump. That was their leverage. That was their power card. And on top of that, Iran had over 3,000 ballistic missiles pointed at targets across the Gulf region. They had a naval force equipped with anti-ship missiles. They had fast attack boats designed for hit-and-run strikes against commercial shipping. They had drone networks, proxy militias, and a nuclear program moving quietly in the background. The combination of all these threats meant that at some point, a decision had to be made. And in March 2026, that decision was made. When Operation Epic Fury was launched, it was not a slow or measured response. It was a thunderstrike from the very first moment. In the first 24 hours alone, over 1,000 targets were hit across Iran. Warships, anti-ship missile sites, radar installations, and coastal defense systems were all struck in a coordinated wave of destruction. The ports of Bandar Abbas and Chabahar were the top priority, because that is where Iran's surface fleet was docked. The strategy was simple and brutally effective. First, blind the enemy. Then destroy everything before they can react. The electronic warfare aircraft went in first. The EA-18G Growler, operating from carrier decks, began jamming Iran's radar systems and surface-to-air missile networks. At the same time, F-22 Raptors created silent corridors in the sky by suppressing any remaining air defense threats. With Iran's eyes and ears effectively shut down, the main event began. Dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from guided missile destroyers out at sea began flying toward their targets in synchronized salvos. These were not random attacks. Every missile had a specific target, a specific coordinate, a specific ship, and they arrived almost simultaneously. The Tomahawk cruise missile is a weapon that was built for exactly this kind of mission. It flies at around 550 miles per hour. It carries a 1,000-pound piercing warhead. It uses GPS combined with terrain matching guidance to find its target with pinpoint accuracy. From the launch positions in the Arabian Sea and Gulf of Oman, these missiles had a flight time of roughly 30 to 90 minutes to reach Iranian ports. The ships sitting at the docks had absolutely no chance. They were static targets. They could not move in time. And one by one, they began to sink. By March 1st, President Trump announced that 9 major Iranian warships had been sunk. The very next day, U.S. Central Command confirmed that all 11 vessels in the Gulf of Oman had been completely destroyed. The Amaran-class frigates, the Maut-class corvettes, the auxiliary ships that Iran used for forward basing and drone operations, all of it gone. The naval headquarters at Bandar Abbas was struck and left burning. Iran's conventional surface fleet, which they had spent decades building and equipping, was wiped out in less time than it takes to watch a few movies. But Tomahawk missiles were only part of the story. After the initial salvos softened the targets and took down the remaining defenses, the F-35 fighter jets rolled in, operating from the USS Abraham Lincoln. These stealth aircraft came in with 500-pound and 1,000-pound JDAM bombs. A JDAM, or Joint Direct Attack Munition, is a GPS guided precision bomb that can be dropped from high altitude and still hit its target within meters of accuracy. The F-35s handled the surgical cleanup work, finishing off any targets that the Tomahawks had not completely destroyed. When a Tomahawk is not enough, you send an F-35, and that combination proved to be absolutely devastating. There was also something new in this operation that the world had not seen before. The United States deployed Lucas's drones for the very first time in actual combat. Lucas stands for Low-Cost Unmanned Combat Aerial Systems. These are inexpensive one-way attack drones designed for a single mission: fly to the target and destroy it. Think of hundreds or even thousands of these drones being sent out simultaneously to swarm Iran's fast attack boats while they were still sitting at their docks. The cost per unit is a fraction of a conventional missile, but the effect is the same. This was the combat debut of a weapons system that will likely change how future wars are fought. On top of all this, HIMARS rocket artillery provided ground-based precision strikes against coastal anti-ship missile sites. These are the land-based launchers that Iran had positioned along its coastline to threaten U.S. Navy vessels. Taking these out was critical because as long as those sites were operational, every U.S. ship in the region was at risk. With HIMARS eliminating those coastal threats, the carriers and destroyers could operate with significantly greater freedom. Now it is important to understand what Iran actually had before this operation and what remains after it. Iran was never a blue water navy. They could not challenge the United States in open ocean combat. Their strategy was always asymmetric, meaning they used speed, surprise, swarms, and geography rather than raw firepower. On the conventional side, they had frigates, like the Yamaren class, which were multi-role warships equipped with anti-ship missiles and basic air defense systems. They had corvettes, patrol vessels, and larger auxiliary ships used for drone operations and forward basing. All of that conventional force is now gone. What remains is the IRGC Navy, which is a separate force from the regular Iranian Navy. The IRGC still has hundreds of fast attack boats loaded with anti-ship missiles. They have kamikaze-style drones and unmanned surface vessels, and they have the ability to lay mines in the Straits of Hormuz. And this is exactly why the Straits have seen a 70% drop in commercial shipping traffic. Iran has not physically blocked the Straits. There is no chain across the water, but the fear of a drone strike, a fast boat attack, or a hidden mine is enough to make commercial shipping companies say they would rather wait it out. It is a psychological blockade, and it is working to some degree right now. However, this situation is expected to change quickly as U.S. forces shift their focus towards systematically eliminating every remaining IRGC naval asset. Now, let us talk about what happened politically on March 3rd, which was day 4 of Operation Epic Fury. President Trump posted on Truth Social, stating that Iran wants to hold talks, but his response was clear. He said their air defense, air force, navy, and leadership are gone, and now they want to talk. He made it known that the window for negotiation had closed. Iran had been given chances. Those chances were not taken, and now America was finishing what had started. There were also reports coming in that the newly appointed supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Arafi, had been killed in an airstrike just hours after being given the role. This tells you something very important. US and Israeli intelligence are tracking Iranian leadership in real time. The moment someone steps into a position of power, they become a target. The life expectancy of senior Iranian leadership in this conflict is measured in hours, not days. Qatar confirmed that Iran had given no advance warning before launching its missile attacks, which suggests that the Iranian chain of command has severely broken down. When a military starts firing ballistic missiles at residential areas in neighboring countries without coordinating with those countries, first, it means the leadership structure has fragmented. Different factions may be acting independently, launching pre-programmed strikes with no unified strategy behind them. Iran struck apartment buildings in Bahrain. They launched jets toward Kuwait. They targeted embassies in Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, and Qatar with Shahed drones. These are not the actions of a coordinated military. These are the desperate moves of a force that has already lost the main battle and is now just trying to cause as much chaos as possible before it collapses. The interception rate of Iranian ballistic missiles has been approximately 90%. Patriot missile systems, Iron Dome, and other layered defense systems across the Gulf have been working around the clock. But even a 10% penetration rate from a large volley of missiles creates real danger. The unpredictability of where those remaining missiles land is what keeps the threat alive, even as Iran's capacity shrinks. America has also issued travel advisories urging its citizens to leave 14 countries across the Middle East due to serious safety risks. This reflects how wide the conflict's impact has spread beyond just the battlefield. Oil prices have surged since the operation began, driven largely by fears around the Straits of Hormuz. Analysts believe, however, that once the IRGC's remaining naval capability is degraded and U.S. Navy escorts begin accompanying commercial vessels through the straits, shipping traffic will recover and oil prices will stabilize. That process is expected to take a matter of weeks rather than months. Looking at the bigger strategic picture, this operation was designed around three core objectives. The first was to permanently eliminate Iran's ability to threaten global shipping through the Straits of Hormuz. The second was to remove Iran's conventional military power and prevent it from ever providing cover for a nuclear weapons program. The third was to degrade the IRGC's ability to fund, arm, and direct its proxy networks across the region, including the Houthis in Yemen, militias in Iraq, and Hezbollah in Lebanon. The opening phase of this operation draws some comparison to the early days of Desert Storm in 1991, where the focus was on destroying command and control networks and air defenses. But this operation went several steps further by targeting and eliminating an entire naval force in the very first strike package that had never been done at this scale before. It represents a new chapter in how modern warfare is conducted. The remaining challenge for U.S. forces is the IRGC's asymmetric capabilities. Taking down hundreds of fast attack boats, thousands of drones, and scattered missile sites is a different kind of problem than sinking frigates at a dock. It requires sustained air patrol, intelligence-driven targeting, and a methodical approach. Fourth-generation fighters like the F-16, F-15E, and the A-10 will likely play a major role in this phase, hunting down smaller vessels and drone launch sites across a wide area. This phase of the operation is expected to continue for several more weeks. What happens after the IRGC's military capability is eliminated is the question that historians and analysts will be discussing for a long time. The Iranian people have already demonstrated remarkable courage. They have lost tens of thousands in protests and uprisings over recent years, and yet they keep standing up. If the regime's ability to suppress them is broken by this military campaign, the path could open for a genuine political transition. But as history has shown in Iraq and Libya, the period between the fall of a dictatorship and the establishment of stable governance is dangerous and chaotic. That transition will require careful international management. To bring it all together, Operation Epic Fury achieved something in 72 hours that many military analysts would have considered impossible just a decade ago. An entire conventional naval force was located, targeted, and destroyed before it could scatter or defend itself. The weapons used were a masterclass in joint operations. Tomahawk missiles provided the overwhelming opening blow from standoff range. F-35s provided the precision follow-up. LUCAS drones introduced a new era of low-cost attrition warfare. Electronic warfare aircraft blinded the enemy before the first shot was fired. And intelligence, surveillance, and satellite systems tied everything together with pinpoint accuracy. Iran's conventional navy is gone. Its air defenses are degraded. Its leadership is in disarray. Its ballistic missile launchers are being intercepted at a 90% rate. Its fast attack boats and drone swarms are the last remaining tools of a military that has effectively lost its conventional strength. The Straits of Hormuz will reopen, shipping will resume, and the world will spend years studying what happened here as a defining example of what modern military dominance actually looks like when it is fully unleashed. That is where things stand today. The next few weeks will determine how this ends. But the opening chapter of Operation Epic Fury has already been written in history, and it was written in fire. If you found this breakdown useful, please share it with someone who follows current events. It really helps this channel grow. And if you want to stay updated as this situation continues to develop, make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next video. I will see you there.